Why might the steak you eat in the future be printed by a 3D printer? Sounds completely crazy, doesn't it? For thousands of years, we've never questioned one simple idea. If you want meat, you have to raise an animal. And that's absolutely true. But let me ask you a different question. What do we actually need? An entire cow or just a steak? I'm guessing you'd choose the steak. And that simple answer is exactly why food companies and research labs around the world are investing billions of dollars trying to solve this problem. Because raising a single healthy cow takes a lot more than most people realize. It requires daily care, nutritious feed, clean water, constant health monitoring, vaccinations when necessary, veterinary care throughout its life. And even then, it usually takes around 12 to 18 months before that cow is ready. That's a long time, isn't it? Every single day, millions of people walk into supermarkets, pick up a package of meat, and never stop to think about the journey behind it. But here's the real question. Will there still be enough meat for everyone in the decades ahead? According to the United Nations, the world's population is expected to reach around 10.3 billion people by the mid-2080s. That also means the demand for food, especially protein, will continue to grow. At the same time, livestock farming is facing increasing pressure. Land, water, greenhouse gas emissions, and rising production costs. Sooner or later, one question becomes impossible to ignore. How do we produce more beef in less time? And that's exactly what the opening question of this video is about. But now, another question appears. Imagine you're shopping for your family. You walk into a supermarket, and one package catches your eye. 3D printed meat. What would you do? Would you put it in your cart or put it right back on the shelf? Is it real meat or just an artificial product made to look like meat? If it's made by a machine, what exactly? Is that machine printing? Plastic? Plant protein? Or living cells? Right now, you're probably imagining a machine pumping out some kind of red mixture and squeezing it into the shape of a steak. If that's what you're thinking, you're definitely not alone. That was also the first thought most people had when they first heard the words 3D printed meat. And that's exactly why this technology became controversial from the very beginning. Because the moment we hear the words 3D printing, our brains immediately picture machines printing plastic, toys, or mechanical parts. But this time, what goes into the machine is something completely different. Here's what's interesting. A lot of people confuse 3D printed meat with cultivated meat. They sound similar, but they're not the same thing. Let's use a very simple example. Imagine you're making a birthday cake. There are two ways to do it. The first way is to buy all the ingredients from the supermarket: flour, cream, eggs. Then you use a mold to shape the cake. That's how many plant-based 3D printed meats work today. The machine isn't creating meat out of thin air. It's simply arranging plant-based ingredients, layer by layer, to recreate the structure of a steak, like an incredibly precise chef. Not a magician. But here's the part that makes the story even harder to believe. There's another approach. Scientists don't need an entire cow. They only need a tiny sample of cells, usually muscle cells or stem cells, taken from a living animal through a small biopsy. The sample is only about the size of a pea, so the animal doesn't have to be killed. Those cells are then placed inside a bioreactor, a sealed stainless steel tank that looks much more like the large fermentation tanks used in pharmaceutical manufacturing or beer brewing than a 3D printer. Inside the bioreactor, the temperature is kept at around 37 degrees Celsius, roughly the same as an animal's body temperature. The cells continuously receive oxygen, along with a nutrient-rich solution containing amino acids, sugars, vitamins, minerals, and growth factors, allowing them to keep dividing. Under the right conditions, their numbers can grow from millions to billions of cells within just a few weeks. although the exact timeline still depends on the type of cells and the production process used by each company. But even then, there still isn't a steak, because those cells are really just like a pile of freshly made bricks. To turn them into meat, scientists have to arrange them into the correct structure of muscle, fat, and connective tissue. Some research teams use biological scaffolds, giving the cells a place to attach and grow. Others are experimenting with 3D bioprinters, placing each layer of cells exactly where it belongs to create a structure that closely resembles a real piece of meat. It sounds like science fiction, but this is no longer just an idea on paper. Singapore became the first country to approve the commercial sale of cultivated meat in 2020. In the United States, the U.S. Department of Agriculture also approved the commercial sale of certain cultivated chicken products in 2023, after they completed the required regulatory process. Which means this is no longer a story about some distant future. It's already beginning to enter our everyday lives. But the moment you realize that, another question immediately appears. If these cells are grown inside a laboratory, are they still real meat? Or are they just an artificial version, designed to fool us? And if they really are real meat, will they taste as good as the steak you've been eating all these years? Because that may be the biggest challenge this technology still has to overcome. Now let's look at it from a different perspective. To answer one simple question, is it real meat or fake meat? You're probably thinking, if it didn't come from an entire cow, then it has to be fake. And honestly, that sounds completely reasonable. But what actually makes a piece of meat meat? Is it where it was made, or the cells it's made from? Let's take a very simple example. If you take a cutting from a rose plant and grow it into a new plant, it's still a rose. No one calls it a fake flower. Cultivated meat works in much the same way. Scientists begin with real animal cells. What they change isn't the cells themselves. It's the way those cells grow. Instead of growing inside the body of a cow, the cells are grown inside a bioreactor, where scientists recreate an environment that closely resembles the animal's natural body. By carefully controlling temperature, oxygen, and continuously supplying the nutrients, the cells need to grow. That's why many scientists argue that at the cellular level, it is still meat. But that doesn't mean everyone agrees. For many consumers, how something feels matters just as much as the science behind it. Because when you bite into a steak, you're not just eating protein, you're experiencing the aroma, the tenderness, the juiciness, the fat melting in your mouth. If even one of those things is missing, you'll notice it immediately. That's why companies aren't just competing to produce meat. They're competing to answer one question: who can create a steak that you can't tell apart from the real thing? But even if the taste is convincing enough, another question immediately appears. Is it safe? That's probably the very first thing most people would ask, because whenever we hear about food made in a laboratory, it's natural to feel concerned. Does it contain too many chemicals? Has it been genetically modified? Or could it affect our health years down the road? Those aren't just your questions. They're also the questions food safety regulators must answer before any of these products are allowed to reach the market. So, what kind of testing does this meat have to go through before it can finally appear on our dinner table? Every single day, we consume countless foods that are produced inside carefully controlled environments. Yogurt is fermented in stainless steel tanks. Cheese is made the same way. Many of the vaccines and medicines we rely on today are also produced using similar systems. What makes a food safe isn't where it's made, it's how it's controlled. That's why, before any cultivated meat product can be sold to the public, it must first go through a rigorous review by food safety regulators. In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, evaluates the production process, the ingredients, and the available food safety data. After that, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, or USDA, continues overseeing production and labeling before the product can reach consumers. That doesn't mean this technology is perfect. It simply means that before it can appear on a supermarket shelf, it has to meet the same safety standards required of many other foods. But at this point, another very common misunderstanding begins to appear. Is cultivated meat genetically modified? Is it a GMO? The answer is not necessarily. These are two completely different concepts. Genetic modification means scientists deliberately alter an organism's DNA to create new traits. Cultivated meat, on the other hand, is generally produced by taking cells that already exist inside an animal and allowing them to continue growing. Now imagine this. One day, you're enjoying a steak. At that very moment, the cow that provided the original cell sample is still peacefully grazing in a field. It wasn't slaughtered. It's still alive, living exactly as it always has. That's what makes this technology so remarkable. For thousands of years, we've assumed that getting a steak always meant losing a cow. But for the first time in history, those two things may no longer have to go together. In other words, if no DNA has been altered, the cultivation process itself doesn't automatically make the product a GMO. That said, some research teams are experimenting with gene editing to help cells grow faster or become more stable. Which also means not every cultivated meat product we see in the future will necessarily be the same. That's one more reason to read the label carefully. If these products one day appear in your local supermarket, but even if it's safe, even if it isn't a GMO, there's still an even bigger obstacle, one that no regulator can answer for consumers. Would you actually be willing to pay for it? Or to put it another way, how much will a steak made with this technology actually cost? Because that may be the challenge that ultimately decides whether this technology stays inside laboratories or becomes part of our everyday meals. If this technology is really that promising, why aren't we eating it already? By now, you're probably thinking, if everything is possible, why haven't I seen it in a supermarket? That's a great question. And the first answer is cost. You know, when scientists unveiled the world's first cultivated meat hamburger in 2013, it cost around $33,000 USD to produce. More expensive than a house in many parts of the world. Of course, no one was willing to spend that kind of money just to eat a hamburger. But selling the first hamburger was never the goal. They only wanted to prove that it could be done. 10 years later, the technology has advanced remarkably fast. Production costs have continued to fall. Many companies now say they're getting closer to a price that could compete with conventional meat. But reducing costs inside a laboratory and producing enough food for millions of people are two completely different challenges. Think about the smartphone you're holding in your hand. Building the very first smartphone isn't particularly difficult. The real challenge is manufacturing hundreds of millions of them with consistent quality and at a price that ordinary people can actually afford. Cultivated meat faces exactly the same challenge. Making a single piece of meat inside a laboratory is difficult. Making millions of pieces every single day is far more difficult. That's why many experts believe that in the early years, you probably won't find cultivated meat in every supermarket. It's far more likely to appear first in selected restaurants or in markets where it has already been approved, before gradually becoming more widely available. But even if the price comes down, and even if it can be produced on a massive scale, there's still one obstacle that technology alone can't solve: human trust. Now imagine this. In front of you are two trays of steak. One is labeled 100% traditional beef. The other says made from real bovine cells using cultivated meat technology. They cost exactly the same. Both have been approved by food safety regulators. Which one would you choose? There's no right or wrong answer. Because in the end, this is no longer just a story about science. It's a story about human psychology. People often need a very long time to accept something new. There was a time when many people believed plant-based milk would never become a mainstream choice, or that plant-based meat would never appear in major fast food chains. Today, those products can be found in supermarkets around the world. Perhaps meat produced through new technology. We'll have to go through exactly the same journey. But that's still the future. So, how far away is that future? If you asked me whether next year we'll be able to walk into a supermarket and easily buy a 3D printed steak, my answer would probably still be no. Because as we've seen, technology is only one part of the story. Before a product can appear on a supermarket shelf, it has to overcome many different challenges. The cost has to be low enough. Production has to be scaled up. Regulations have to be fully established. And perhaps most importantly, consumers have to accept it. But if we look back through history, many technologies that once seemed impossible have eventually become completely ordinary. There was a time when nobody imagined we could call a ride using nothing more than a smartphone. Nobody imagined we could pay for almost everything without carrying cash. And very few people believed electric vehicles could one day compete with gasoline-powered cars around the world. Perhaps meat produced through new technology will follow exactly the same path. Or perhaps it won't. No one can say for certain what the future will look like. But one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The race has already begun. Billions of dollars are still being invested. Companies are still searching for ways to reduce production costs. Scientists are still working to create better tasting meat. And governments are still building the regulations needed for an entirely new industry. Which means, even if you don't see a 3D printed steak in your local supermarket today, there's a good chance that in the next few years, or perhaps the next few decades, our children and grandchildren will simply see it as something completely normal, just as we now take the internet or smartphones for granted. And who knows? By then, the question we're debating today may sound surprisingly strange. Instead of asking, would you eat meat produced through technology? People might be asking, why did people used to raise an entire cow just to get a single steak? Perhaps we won't have to wait much longer to find out.